Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Suffolk. Here we go. East Anglian Derby Day. Norwich City, me and Paddy actually, firmly behind enemy lines here inside the blue half of East Anglia. Obviously, just over an hour or so to go until the first derby of the season kicks off. Norwich City come here hoping for something, anything, just to inject some life, energy, optimism, and probably excitement as well back into their season. We will bring you the team news, the Norwich City team news, the Ipswich Town team news, as it drops in 2 minutes' time or so. I'm joined by Paddy, and we are in. Look, credit where credit's due. This place has been done up a little bit. I think it's fair to say it's better than the last time we came here, as it should be with a season in the Premier League. We can see, as we look across to the pitch, Norwich's players surveying the scene, surveying the surface. Paddy, how are you feeling?
I'm actually more optimistic than I've been in a couple of our broadcasts. I jumped on Counterparts Over the Borders preview show Friday night, and
You're getting stick for being on there too long, aren't you?
28 minutes. Yeah. Why do we want to hear budgie talk? Was a lot of the comments. You keep asking the questions. I'll talk all night about Norwich, but there was a lot of bullish optimism from the blue side, as you can imagine. They all forecast home wins. As if I'm honest, I have in one or two of our pieces of content, but I woke up today, and whether it's the sun is shining or what, I don't know, but as I see some of the away fans filtering in, maybe it isn't quite as cut and dried as we feared, with all the elements poured into this equation, positive, negative, both sides of the border. Maybe it isn't as, Norwich will turn up here and that'll be the end of the 16 years. They have to, from Ipswich's point of view, they've had the blue action. We're dealing with the acrid blue smoke in our nostrils from.
I'm coughing, really, to be honest.
I didn't get the sense had as much ferocity and intensity as 2 seasons ago when it was. We got caught up proper in that, and that was a little bit coming on top at points that behind this Cobbold stand, is it here? But today there was a bit less of that fury, and maybe that flows into they expect. Sorry, mate. Maybe it just flows into it that they expect to come here and turn over Norwich.
Yeah, let's bring you the team news. This is how Norwich City line up. It is Kovacevic in goal, Stacey, Darling, Cordoba and Fisher are the back four. McLean, Topic and Matson as a midfield three. Schwartau and Sienats either side of Josh Sargent. So I'll just run through that for you again. Kovacevic in goal, Stacey, Darling, Cordoba and Fisher are Norwich City's back four. Kenny McLean, Mirko Topic and Pella Matson as a midfield three, with Schwartau and Antti Sienats either side of Josh Sargent. The bench: Grimshaw, Medic, Mahovo, Schlupp, Wright, Gibbs, Marcondes, Jurasek and Makama. Paddy, that's one change from midweek, I make it, which is Emi Marcondes drops to the bench, and here comes Mirko Topic, which maybe speaks volumes about the type of game that Norwich City are expecting. It's another body in midfield as well. What do you make of that team news?
Both of those points for me, Connor. Yeah, they know that and anytime I've seen the McKenna side, they're very good in the middle of the park. They're very fluid. They get control of that area, and then they're able to release with a lot of pace what they've got in wide areas. So you need to establish some parity there. It cannot be you have the ball, Ipswich, we'll camp on the edge of our own box and try and repel you, as we've seen too often this season under Manning. So throwing Topic in there, I think gives them another body. It's not what they did at Stoke, where it was Schwartau out of possession, big task to drop in alongside McLean and Matson. That still left too many gaps for me, and it still gave too much invitation for Stoke to rumble forward that day. I think with Topic in there, he clearly knows that area of the pitch, he knows the position. 2 or 3 games ago, I was feeling that it probably needed to be an actual 3 in the centre of the park, in and out of possession, just to try and give them a little bit of control, try and stem that tide almost of territory in possession that they've been dealing with. So I like that. I like that move. Topic physically is a big, powerful player. McLean clearly has to be a concern about the back issue and how long he can go, but if he's available to get out there from the start, you play him for his experience in this fixture. Matson, I think, will relish it. We know from his sort of profile, he's quite a combative sort, so I don't think he'll take a backward step in this environment. So I like that as a mix. And then ahead of that, I guess it's about Schwartau and Cernach again being very powerful in terms of their running output to try and support the midfield effort, but also crucially get up and make sure Sargent isn't isolated. So I'm not against that 11. I know the Cordoba inclusion has had a lot of pushback already in the comments, but Now, for me, it's him over Medic. Then you either want Medic's ball playing skills or you want Cordoba's athleticism, because I think we've all seen now if Medic gets isolated, and we've seen the pace that they've got in their wide areas, particularly Philogene, that would be a huge cause for concern. You know, if he was going up against the likes of Medic in a leg race. So I'm less concerned about a Cordoba for Medic operation, but you know, I can see why there's obviously concerns, because I don't think he's been particularly convincing thus far under Liam Manning, has he? Let's be honest.
No, we will come on to that Ipswich team in a moment, but the headline is Marcelino Nunez obviously starts on the bench, so that is that's where we start with that. In attacking areas, Paddy, I think we saw the other night there was probably a toothlessness to Norwich until Lucio Mahovo, Mate Jurasek. Who else can we throw in there? But those type of players entered the pitch. Makama obviously as well. Are you surprised that Liam Manning is stuck with probably the two same wide players that he has?
Not really, because you come here, wrap around all this history that's in a negative trend for Ipswich. What's it going to be at the start? It's going to be ferocious. They're going to go for the jugular. They're going to try and feed off the energy that you expect this home crowd are going to whip up. So it's going to be, I think, probably hanging on a little bit in the opening 20-25. You spoke on the drive over. If Norwich concede early, then it could be a floodgates job. That would be the fear. You know, a la Wrexham and how they imploded that day. Because these won't take their foot off the throat if they get a sniff of it and get themselves up early. So, no, for me, that selection is probably designed to just be in the game moving into the second half. And then, of course, you do have a Marcondes, you do have a Jurasek, you do have a Makama, to maybe, if he's feeling the game state is such they can maybe go on and get a real positive result, i.e. a win, you can drop in some of the more attacking minded players. But I think from the start today, of all days, I think you need to err on the side of we need to be, particularly out of possession, very disciplined and very solid. And you know, Jurasek comes in from the start today. Do you know what you're going to get out of possession? Likewise, Makama, very young, inexperienced at this level, has shown some positive attributes in his early forays, but this is another level and something else with what is attached around this game. So for me, you don't start Jurasek, you don't start Makama today, no.
I'm going to flash this coming up from Emery, which I think is something we discussed, to be fair, in midweek. And he said from Facebook, worried there is still no pace in that team, too slow. And I mean, you do look at it really, and we're looking at Jack Stacey, aren't we, in terms of raw, out-and-out pace. I guess Sargent's got pace and power as well, but we've already highlighted a lot this season, maybe how disconnected he's been from it. So is that a concern of yours, what Henry is saying there about the pace or lack of it in this team?
Yeah, generally, yeah. I think that. I mean, if, you know, you take Jallo out of it, particularly, they're certainly lacking in that threat. But then the pace factor for me is the type of game. You know, if it's a game where Norwich are getting pinned back, like Stoke, for example, the last away game, and they almost need to transition and counter at really top speed because there's so many gaps to bridge from being camped on the edge of their own box to where Sargent is, then pace is a factor, and pace clearly is something you would need in that template. If it's more West Brom and Norwich, yes, Ipswich will have their spells and Norwich will have to defend, but if Norwich get enough of the ball that they're higher up the pitch, the starting positions of the midfield and those forward players are a bit closer to Sargent, then for me it's less pace is the attribute you need, because it's then about being very good in terms of progressive passing and trying to break down Ipswich. So maybe Liam Manning's looked at it and thought it's going to be more of that game, or that's the type of game he wants, rather than we're going to have to attack from deep. Yes, if you have to attack from deep because you're under relentless pressure and you need to relieve that pressure, then you would need pace in his side. The fact that he hasn't gone necessarily with that, although I look at the bench and where's that pace, you know, generally you would say that is an issue in this Liam Manning squad, certainly the matchday squad today. So if you haven't got that, then you have to come up with something slightly different, don't you?
Yeah, you do indeed. Let's bring you the Ipswich Town starting 11 for this afternoon. They've made a change in their back line, actually. Cedric Kipray comes in for Jacob Greaves, which means they line up with Palmer in goal, Furlong, Shea, Kipray and Davis as their back four. Azor Matasiwa and Jens Kajust is their midfield two. Sindra Walla Elegi, who I believe was the Championship's most expensive player, isn't that right? Yeah. Jaden Philogene on the flanks, with Sam Schmoddocks behind George Hurst. Their subbench: Walton, Ashley Young, Jacob Greaves, Taylor, McAteer, Chuba Akpom, Jack Clark, Izor Azon, and a certain Marcelino Nunez as well. That is how Ipswich line up for the derby. Some interesting calls in there, and I guess from a Norwich perspective, Paddy, that change in the back line is quite interesting, isn't it? Greaves, who I've kind of seen has been criticised a little bit for some of his performance levels. Can you see Sargent getting some change out of those two centre backs?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being truthful, I haven't seen a huge amount of this Ipswich. I haven't seen too much of them in the Premier League for obvious reasons. So, we will see. I mean, O'Shea's a Republic international, so he's clearly got a degree of pedigree about him. But I'd fancy Sargent against any centre back in this league, if I'm honest. I was going to ask you: is that Egele, the Championship's most expensive player? Has he got a place to burn like Philogene, or is he a bit more of a ball player?
Yeah, I've not seen a lot of him, to be honest. I know he was very highly rated in Denmark. So much so that,
he looks a good player.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't seen that. Yeah. I could be speaking really out of turn because I've not seen him play, but I've not seen it personally. Yeah. Obviously, we know what Philogene can offer, and that front three certainly of Egele, Smodics, Philogene feels like that's probably where Norwich are going to need to really, which again probably, to bring this back to a Norwich angle, maybe explains why he's gone for more of a flat three in midfield.
Exactly, yeah, because if you can almost stunt the supply lines to those three, particularly Philogene, and you're almost nullifying what they could offer. I mean, if they get ample service, which is a byproduct of territory and possession, then you would think between those three they will cause Norwich a lot of problems. So, yeah, as always with these games, but particularly a derby game, particularly this, given the historical imbalance in Norwich's favour, centre of the park, you get any measure of control there, then I think the team who probably edges that today will probably go on and decide this outcome, and that for me is looking at that 11 for Norwich. Manning realises that's the case as well.
I mean, there's been a lot of debate this week. I've seen it in a lot of circles about who in this squad has the capability to step up. To be John Rowe did it 2 years ago, didn't he? Really step up and be a huge part of Derby Day. That's the Norwich goalkeepers coming out to warm up. If you can hear those boos behind us,
pretty muted though, isn't it?
Pretty muted. Do you see the options in that squad and probably in that starting 11 that is maybe capable of producing that?
Well, I mean, if you're asking me, have we seen in an 8 or 9 game block this season players there in that 11 who you think they've already done it? Then no, you're almost having to take a bit of a leap of faith. I mean, Topic to me looks like a very technically gifted footballer. You could see him picking the ball up 20-25 yards out and bending one in the top corner, and then the answer is Mirko Topic. So, but I don't think you would, on the body of evidence, small though it is, look at those players. Schwartau hasn't suggested he's got that in him necessarily, that X factor element. Cernach, well, we could have another hour on Cernach, couldn't we? But we know he showed that in glimpses or pockets or bursts last season. We're not seeing at all this season. I thought, like Manning, I agree, he was better midweek from a very low base, but nevertheless, he looked like more physically robust and put himself about a bit. And he does have quality. We have seen it last season. We have seen it in an Norwich shirt. So could he? What a day today for him to step forward and be the kingmaker and another positive result here. And then that could be, purely in terms of Antti Cernach, that could be releasing the shackles. We know he's a very player who feeds off confidence. He strikes me as a very introverted character generally. You come out of here with an aura of a James Maddison, a John Rowe, Holty back in the day. Not that he needed any more confidence, Holty, but then who knows where it takes his career from here in green and yellow. So that is the potential. Let's look at the upside of what today could bring rather than maybe the negative aspect of it.
And that's the point, isn't it? Because there's been a lot of talk in the build-up about what this could mean if Norwich are on the receiving end. But I think you have got to flip that and look at what it could mean from a positive perspective. Because if Norwich City can come away from here with something, and let's be honest, there aren't many people who are giving them a lot of hope, either in that fan base or elsewhere.
Giving them a lot of hope, mate.
There you go. If they could do that, then as we saw, I'm not comparing they're going to go on and do what that Daniel Farke team did. But he was under a bit of pressure in that game, wasn't he? They came here, they fell behind, they got a late equaliser, and it wasn't that game specifically, but it was a multitude of games in that period that helped them turn the corner and off they went. So if they did get on the right side of a result today, this could be a real springboard for them.
Well, it has to be because the mood generally, okay, now maybe as we get closer to kick-off, that sort of tribal, no, we'll back the team in green and yellow, that's starting to kick in and people think a result is possible. But if you take a step back and maybe look at it harder to say, easier to say, harder to do, but more dispassionately, there should only be one outcome today, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So in that context, if Norwich come here and get a result and it's 17 years and 0. Just in terms of the mood around this club, we know what's unfolded in the last 24, 48 hours around the release of that Carrow Road map and how that Paddy that's been played out, and following on from previous episodes, the Núñez sale and how that played out initially. Something needs to happen to give this club, these individuals in the club, Manning, Napa, et al., a massive lift. The fan base, most importantly, a massive lift. You get a result today, it's not going to paper over all those elements that have posed a lot of questions in recent days about identity and disconnects, and do they understand what we want as fans? They won't go away, but at least for
a hell of a sticking plaster, though.
Well, as Dean Smith used to say, bless him, wins are sticking plasters. I think for me also, the fact is it followed this game by a 2-week break.
Yeah.
You get a positive result today, then they can almost take stock from top to bottom of the football club, look at maybe what hasn't gone right internally, what they can do better in all areas of the operation, and then come back out on the front foot against Bristol the other side. None of that, unfortunately, is going to be possible if they come here today, get rolled over, and we see more questions and answers about Manning. That scenario is not one we want to countenance at 2 o'clock this afternoon.
No, you mentioned Liam Manning. He's just emerged from the tunnel to do some pre-match media down there. There's a big wry smile on his face, which suggests to me he's maybe got a quite colourful welcome as he makes his way down the Portman Road touchline. We're going to come on to predictions now, so obviously we want to hear yours more importantly than ours. So we want to know how you're feeling and how you feel this game will go. And that's the question I'm going to put to you, Paddy, because like you say, I think probably for the course of the week you go through various stages of how you're feeling and how it rides out. As we sit here today, an hour basically on the button until kick-off, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, I mean, I am more optimistic, and I think that's a good balanced 11 that he's gone with there. But those players need to perform, and heaven forbid, I don't want to talk anything up, but McLean pulls up sharply 15 minutes in, and then the game plan's almost gone out the window, then, hasn't it? So it's a knife edge. It's fine margins today, and I still think Ipswich probably edge it. But for me, going back to the previous point we've made, if they can move out of here with something to cling on to, if that was a much improved performance, really had a go, really took it to Ipswich, and they've just fallen the wrong side against the team who've spent vast sums, and make no bones about it, they expect to go straight back at the first attempt. That's what this is all geared about. So, yeah, okay, the 16 years has gone, but they're back at Carrow Road in the new year, and what you would hope is, if they see something here today that you can get behind as a Norwich fan, then by the time they come to Carrow Road in, March, April, the tables can be turned, if that's how it pans out. So, yeah, 2-1 defeat for me, Connor. You?
Yeah, I'm probably going to end up in a similar place to you, really. I know people say, you can't use logic and apply to the derby, but actually I think as a general rule of thumb you can. You look at the last 16 years, who's been the better team? Maybe not for the last 2, but certainly for the bulk of the derbies before that, it's been Norwich City. And who's had the dominance in those games? It's been Norwich City. This feels, as I said, probably those 2 last time around, and this feels probably as heavy favourites as Ipswich has been. So I think not to stand here and play mind games, but I think it does feel like the pressure's probably on them today to try and break this record rather than it is for Norwich. But again, it's about how well Norwich can do here, and to make sure they leave, irrespective of result, with something to cling on to. I know people will say, well, if you lose here, there's nothing to cling on to in that regard, but just the performance and maybe just some more progress that we did see against West Brom, in fairness, on Wednesday night. If we can see a bit more of that, a bit of attacking intent, I think we'd probably leave here feeling a little bit better about the state of the world, even if it came after a defeat. And that being said, I think I'm finding it difficult to plot a route for Norwich City based on what we have seen in the opening, 8 games, 9 games, 8 to success here this afternoon, because I think Norwich City are, which isn't it, it's not impossible, but I think they're going to have to produce a level of performance that we simply have not seen from them this season. It could well be in there, and let's all hope it is. And, predictions like this, hopefully that Dubai is going. But I do think Ipswich are probably just going to do that today, and I was going to go for 2-1. So I'll join you with the 2-1, and hopefully, because we're terrible at predicting these results anyway, we can use it as reverse psychology. So that's the way to go. And finally, Paddy, we better mention him, Marcelino Núñez, on the bench today.
We've got the programme, Connor.
Yeah, he is on the front of the programme. He's there you go. You can throw things at your screen accordingly. less so what he's going to get in the stands, because I think we're used to that. What do you think if it does get onto the pitch is going to be like for him out there today? It probably depends on the state of the game as well.
Well, to me, the fact that he's not involved suggests that, certainly McKenna doesn't feel he's at the level yet where he's better than what they've already got. So I could only really see him coming in if it's a taunting aspect where the game's already won and they throw him on, and then these home fans will probably bait those away fans even more. But it'd be nice if he came in a game state where there was plenty still riding on it, and some of those Norwich midfielders could get around him and maybe express their displeasure at the manner of how he decided to jump ship for the Blues. But he's a sideshow today for me. It's not really about him, is it? Ultimately, it's about Liam Manning, this group of Norwich players, not necessarily even maintaining that 16 years unbeaten. It's just, for me, the bigger picture is this season. This season hasn't started well. Liam Manning's the first to admit that. Carrow Road, diabolical. We've said it a few times now. Away from home, better in terms of points, but nobody's kidding themselves. The performances are nowhere near. There's no style of play that gives you the optimism that this season is going to be one that is a top 6 push. So this today is a signpost for where this season's going. If they get absolutely tonked, then it's not even about Manning's future. It's not even about Napier's future. For me, it's about the future of this football club. And I don't think that's overplaying it. And that's the sense you've got from a lot of the fan columnists in the last week or two. This feels bigger than coming to here and maintaining 16 years. Yeah, it'd be nice, but they win here today and they turn up at Bristol City, Carrow Road, in 2 weeks' time and get beat again. Then we're back here again in the same cycle. So we need to kind of see something today that can be built into a confidence that no, this season is going to end up on the trajectory we all thought it might do before a ball was kicked. There's precious little evidence of that so far, but today is a day you can turbocharge definitely your season, no doubt about it.
And those fans as well need to see something. And like I say, actually away from home, Norwich City still unbeaten in the league. They're taking 8 points. Certainly before this game week, no one had taken more than that. So, and as Callum says there, the Ipswich have hardly got themselves going, although I think they have won both of their last 2 here as well. And obviously one of those was a 5-0 win. So let's see what we get. As Paddy says, high stakes from a Norwich City perspective. Big afternoon. You can follow it all, pinkin.com. We'll have the coverage, the analysis, and the reaction to today's East Anglian Derby. And let's hope we are talking about that epic 16-year run continuing. Thanks for joining us at Portman Road. Whether you're behind a sofa, on the sofa, in the ground, try and enjoy it. We'll see you on the other side.